She said we were too comfortable and needed space to see if I was the one. So I vanished. Now she's crying in an empty apartment, realizing I'm never coming back. I am 34, and for almost 3 years, I believed I was building something real with the woman I loved. Her name was Claire, and from the moment we met, I thought she was the person I could spend my life with. We had a home together, shared countless memories, built routines, and lived the kind of everyday life that felt steady and safe. We woke up together, made breakfast, talked about our days, and fell asleep knowing we had someone beside us. It wasn't always perfect. No relationship ever is. But I truly believed we were both working towards something lasting. That belief was what made everything that happened next feel like a punch straight to the chest. It was a Wednesday evening, the kind of day where everything felt normal until it wasn't. She came home quiet, moving around the apartment without the lightness she usually had. After dinner, she asked if we could talk. That in itself wasn't strange. We had always made time for conversations. But there was something different in her voice this time. She sat across from me on the couch, looked down at her hands, and said softly, "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I think I need some space." At first, I thought I misheard her. Space? From me? From us? She nodded without meeting my eyes. "Yeah, I don't know if we're really right for each other. I'm not saying I don't love you, but I'm not sure we're truly compatible. I feel like we're just comfortable now, and that scares me." Felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Just a week ago, we were making plans for a weekend trip, laughing over which Airbnb to book. And now she was saying she didn't even know if I was the one. I asked her if this was really what she wanted. She looked at me and said, "I think I need time to figure that out." So I did the only thing that felt right in that moment. I respected what she said. I packed a small bag that night, told her I would give her the space she asked for, and walked out the door. There was no fight, no begging, no slamming doors. Just a quiet exit. It hurt like hell, but I knew I couldn't force someone to stay if they were questioning whether they wanted me at all. The first night was brutal. I slept on a friend's couch, barely closed my eyes, and replayed every moment of the past few months in my head. Had I missed the signs? Was there something I could have done differently? The questions were endless and unforgiving. But in the days that followed, the fog in my head started to clear just a little. I realized that love shouldn't be a constant test. It shouldn't require creating drama just to feel something real. If someone needed to throw the relationship into chaos to feel secure, then maybe it wasn't love at all. Still, I kept my phone close. Part of me expected she might reach out for clarity or closure. But she didn't. Not for an entire week. I tried not to wonder too much about where she was or what she was doing. But after nearly 3 years together, you can't just shut off those thoughts overnight. I spent that week quietly thinking about what would happen if this really was the end. Who would take the apartment? What would we do about the bills? Where would I go? Half of me held on to hope, while the other half slowly started letting go. Exactly 7 days after I left, my phone buzzed. A simple message lit up the screen. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time before replying. "About what?" Her response came immediately. "About us." The next evening, I met her at the apartment. She looked nervous, like she had been rehearsing this conversation for hours. I stayed standing, leaning against the wall with my arms folded. She took a breath and said, "So, I've had time to think." I waited. She looked down and then said something that made my stomach turn. "That whole breakup thing, it wasn't real." I blinked slowly. "What do you mean it wasn't real?" "It was a test," she said. "I wanted to see how you'd react. I needed to know if you'd fight for me, if you'd show me you couldn't live without me. I thought you'd come back or call nonstop, or I don't know, maybe propose." I stared at her, my mind trying to make sense of what I was hearing. "You faked a breakup to see if I'd propose?" "I didn't plan it exactly like that," she said quickly, the words tumbling out. "I just thought if I said I needed space, it would spark some big emotional reaction. I've been feeling unsure lately, like we were just going through the motions. I thought if you really loved me, you'd prove it. I guess I wanted a sign. Couldn't believe it." She had taken something as fragile and important as trust and turned it into a game. So you decided to shake the foundation of everything we've built just to see if I'd crack? She nodded lightly, her eyes dropping to the floor. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I thought you'd stay. Or fight. You just disappeared. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You told me you weren't sure if we were compatible. You told me you needed space. What was I supposed to do? Cling to someone who was pushing me away? I thought if I said that, you'd finally realize how much I mean to you, she whispered. I was trying to get a reaction. Not this. The room fell silent except for the distant sound of cars outside. She looked at me like she expected I'd forgive her now that I knew the truth. But I didn't feel anger. I felt something worse, disappointment. You wanted a reaction, I said slowly. So you gambled our entire relationship. And now that you didn't get the outcome you wanted, you want to rewind everything. I just want things to go back to how they were, she said, her eyes glassy. I shook my head. They can't. You turned love into a test. You tried to manipulate me to get an answer you should have already known. And now you have your answer. She looked confused. What do you mean? I picked up my bag from the chair and walked toward the door. You wanted to see what I'd do if you walked away. Now you've seen it. That was the last time I spoke to her in person. For days later, I signed the lease on a small one-bedroom apartment I had been looking at months before. While she was at work, I returned to the old place and collected my things. Clothes, books, photos, the few pieces of furniture that were mine. I left quietly, without a note or explanation. The space looked colder when I walked out. A day later, I blocked her on everything. Not out of anger, but because I knew there was nothing left to say. I didn't want some guilt-filled apology or another manipulative test. I already had all the answers I needed. That weekend, a mutual friend texted me. She came back. You weren't there. She looked shocked. I said nothing back. Because the truth was simple. When you test someone's love by pretending to leave, you have to be ready for the chance that they'll let you go. She moved out 2 weeks later. I don't know where she went, and I didn't ask. My new apartment was smaller, but it was peaceful. No games. No emotional manipulation. No waiting for the next test. Sometimes I think about the good moments we had. They were real. But so was the day she sat me down and tried to see if I would fight for her by pushing me away. That's the part you can't forget. Love isn't an experiment. It's a choice you make every day. And the day she decided to test mine was the day I chose to stop making it. So now she's sitting in that empty apartment, crying over a man who no longer exists, because the man who would have fought for her doesn't live here anymore. Hit that subscribe button for more stories.